Hi everybody, welcome back to Bobby's Bucks, and today I wanted to talk about seeds and food plots and why I even plant a food plot, and why I plant what I plant. So first, I plant the food so there's an opportunity where I can get the deer coming through, eating the food, and maybe if I don't pressure the property and I let the trail cameras run and I'm not checking the trail cameras all the time, those mature deer won't get spooked, and they won't only come around when it's nighttime. So if you run the trail cameras, you can monitor when they're visiting, when they're entering and exiting the property, where they're entering and exiting the property. So I use food plots as a tool, an opportunity, a chance at a really good deer. And I may hunt this property towards the end of the season. We actually have an orchard on the property as well, back where we put the food in. And so I really enjoy planting food because I usually take a couple deer a year, but I'm certainly feeding so many more deer than the few that I actually end up harvesting. So that's a big misconception, that we just love to hurt deer or hurt animals. That couldn't be farther from the truth. We actually love whitetails even more than the average person, even more than those vegetarians, but they don't understand that unless they marry a deer hunter. And then it will probably all come into focus. And if you guys have other thoughts about that, or you disagree with that, be sure to leave your comments and questions down below. Food is a way that I can feed nature, enjoy wildlife, take in the sights, have an opportunity at a good deer, a mature deer. And of course you have to not pressure that property, because that's a key factor in the whole pursuit of that big animal, or that mature animal rather. So behind me I have some seeds, some things that you can grow. It greatly depends on where you live as far as what you can grow. So maybe you can find some YouTube channels where folks are showing you what they plant and when they plant it in your state. Here we're in Michigan, so we don't even plant until because we're planting for fall. Now some folks in the beginning, you plant a clover plot. Plant a clover plot because it's permanent, it will come back, it's perennial, it'll keep coming back. And a good clover field will last on average 4 to 6 years, where and as long as you mow, that will be good weed control. And then that clover can establish a healthy root system and just take over. But over the years, we've planted less and less clover, and now I plant clover just kind of for a variety, because I know in those cooler temperature times, clover will thrive. And of course, it's terrific protein for deer. But I don't plant it so much for a prime, key food plot, or that's the food that I'm drawing them in on. Only because in most cases here in Michigan, when we're hunting deer, clover isn't popping. It's either too cold or it's too hot. And it's a time when deer have so much food in the woods. I mean, leafy greens are abundant, woody browse is everywhere. They don't even have to worry about, traveling a far distance in order to get the food they want, because it's just everywhere. So I'm looking for food that will be prime or will peak right around the time when we can bow hunt, or we can gun hunt. So I'm looking for cold weather crops. So clover wouldn't really be ideal, but it's a terrific perennial with high protein. But again, they're not going to hit it the way I want them to. So what I usually plant is a nice winter green, which is like a turnips or radishes, or just a brassica or rape blend. Now you can go to your elevators and get a brassica blend for your food plots. I really recommend it. And what you want to do is you want to mow, spray, and 2 weeks later spray again. Prepping your food plot is important because you want to make sure you time this right. So when you plant depends on where you live. Okay, so you're going to want to back up 10 weeks from your last frost date. Here in Michigan, it's right around the second week of October, so we're going to be shooting for August 1st. Now this is a really tough time to plant things because it's one of the hottest months if not the hottest month in Michigan every year. So July and August, we're planting things, but it's difficult because we may have to water, and we especially want to wait for a rainy forecast, maybe at least 1 to 2 days of rain. Now, last month we had the driest May in the history of Michigan. We had a drought the year before where our food plots failed. Most of our food plots failed, and that's important that you understand the moisture content. Now, certain things do really well with less moisture, so depending on where you live, again, that's gonna greatly influence what you plant or what you grow for deer. So again, time your planting 10 weeks prior to when you're gonna grow your food. Why do you shoot for 10 weeks? Because that's a tasty, palatable crop. If you let it grow too soon, if you plant it too soon and you let it grow too high, it's not gonna be tasty. The palatable greens is what deer like. Tasty, prime food. That's right around 8 to 10 weeks. Now, too small, the traffic is just gonna stomp it down and it's not gonna do well. It may be planted in a time where there's just not enough moisture and it may never take. It may never establish the healthy roots. So be sure to time it when it's rainy and time it so it has enough time to get to the point where it's strong enough and there's enough food where it can handle the traffic, and it will also still be plentiful and tasty for your deer. So what we usually do is we start prepping our food plots July 1st. So 4th of July weekend, I'm usually getting my food plots ready. If I'm not hitting the lake with the family or doing something, I'm working on food plots. I'm starting to prep them. Now, I usually spray them 2 to 3 times a year depending on what the field is, because brassicas, for example, you want a clear field. You want grass. You want dirt. Grass, any kind of competition will not allow the seed to take and establish. So clear the best you can. Clear the field the best you can, and that's how you plant that very small seed. You can see how small this seed is. I mean, here are turnip seeds, and you almost can't even see them. They're about the size of a pencil tip. And it's very important when you're planning your blend system, because I always recommend, like I said, clover isn't our target, but we still plant red clover. We plant it into our rye fields. We plant it with our radish, just for a variety, and it's gonna be timed. Also, we'll plant white clover with red clover. Like, we planted white clover and red clover because that's gonna be timed differently. They both grow differently in different situations. So depending on what happens, we have a better chance of having some food out there for deer. Also, certain crops grow well together. Like, we planted a vetch field this year, and vetch grows well with clover. So find out what companion plants you can put in that food plot or what grows good with that. So looking at those 2 bags, you wouldn't plant soybeans with your turnips, not at the same time, because when you're opening up your feeder, you're gonna lose all your turnips. And at the very end of it, you're still gonna have peas. And the ratio isn't gonna be right. So if you're gonna plant that kind of stuff, be sure to plant your 2 clovers together, or either small seeds, then plant your different size seeds. So last thing I wanna mention before we wrap this up is that a local elevator, or an elevator near you, is going to have so many more options than going to a sporting goods store or a Walmart, for example. And those bags, those big bags with the deer on it, and there's several different companies, and those seeds are great. They're gonna do well, but just pay attention because there may be grass in that bag. If it says ryegrass and it's not rye grain, then you're most likely you have a bag mostly of grass, and it's gonna be green, and deer are gonna eat it, but they're not gonna hit it the same way they would if you were growing a specific crop. It's best to have a variety of foods. But if you'd like to see more on an all-season food plot, I'll put a video up in the corner and you can check that out. Maybe it'll give you some ideas on what you may want to do next. It's okay if you feel a little silly that you're not planting 200 acres of winter peas. Most of us aren't. A lot of our food plots are an 1/8 of an acre, 1/4 acre, 1/2 acre at the most. And over the years, these elevators are prepared. They have encountered so many deer hunters going to elevators now that they have little bins and barrels and boxes and pigeon tubs full of smaller amounts, so you can purchase 2 pounds, 3 pounds, 4 pounds of whatever. So because For example, I purchased this all at the same time. This is a couple pounds of radish. This is a couple pounds of red clover. Yeah, the red clover is a white seed. Here's a couple pounds of turnips. I think I got 10 pounds of soybeans and maybe 10 pounds of winter peas. But spiders are coming from the ceiling. If you don't know where to start, type in Google seed elevator, or type in your city or the surrounding cities followed by elevator. And there may be an elevator near you. I hope there is. You're going to have a place to go and get your food plot seeds every year. And most folks that work at those places really experienced food growers, farmers. So you're going to be able to bounce your ideas and issues off them, and they're going to be able to point you in the right direction. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and I'll get back to everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.